Before Wakanda Forever came out, you saw people in the industry predicting massive, massive numbers for the Black Panther sequel. Even though Chadwick Boseman obviously tragically passed away, even though there wouldn't be a T'Challa, even though we knew that we were getting a new Black Panther, and of course, no secret, it was going to be Shuri. That's what happened, but people were wondering, how would the box office look? Because with a $250 million budget, this thing needs to make a lot of money, $625 million to be precise, before it breaks even, before it starts to even make a penny. That's the number that it has to hit. And right now, with an opening weekend far less than what they were hoping for or predicted, you got to be wondering if Marvel's happy with this poor showing. Box office, Black Panther Wakanda Forever rules with $330 million global launch, $180 million domestic debut. And of course, that's a lot of money. That is a ton of money. $180 million is a massive domestic debut. However, when you compare it to some recently released Marvel Cinematic Universe series, you can see why people are asking some questions. Because even though this was predicted to do numbers very similar to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, if not pass it, there were people that thought this could be a $200 million domestic week. And there were people that thought this could do $360, almost $400 million globally. It absolutely did not. And there were people that thought it would pass Doctor Strange. But remember the headlines months ago? Doctor Strange opens to $450 million globally. That was the global weekend number. That's $120 million less for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's tracking right now, around 75% of where that number was for Multiverse of Madness. That is well off, especially when you factor in it had a $250 million budget, and Doctor Strange 2 only had a $200 million budget. Well, what about Thor Love and Thunder? Remember the disappointment that was Thor Love and Thunder? $302 million global debut. That ended up really falling off the charts and not doing anything close to what Marvel wanted. Look at the number for Love and Thunder, $745 million. Did it break even? Yes, it broke even. Did it make a little bit of money? Yeah, but not nearly the amount of money that Marvel was expecting with the massive investment that they put into it. And Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, that's a good number. It nearly hit $1 billion. You can't really call this a disappointment, even though it had a massive first weekend and really fell off. Still, this is a movie that made a significant amount of money for Marvel. I'm sure they're happy about that. But when it comes to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it's not going to do the same thing internationally that those ones did. It simply isn't. Multiverse of Madness made a significant amount more internationally. So did Thor Love and Thunder. Black Panther Wakanda Forever will not do that because, quite simply, it doesn't appeal to a global audience as much as it does here domestically. That's why we saw the first Black Panther, one of the very few Marvel movies that made more domestically than it did internationally. So now you sit here and you look at this, $330 million. It's massive, but there are some big disappointments when you look at this, if you're looking at the tracking, if you're looking at the comparisons for Marvel. And in fact, just a few weeks before it came out, people started lowering their expectations because they realized this thing was going to be on the low end. As people started to see more clips, the cringe humor that people simply didn't find funny, the lines that were terrible. There's a bunch of problems with this movie that people could see just in the previews, just in the promotional material. Black Panther Wakanda Forever box office projections significantly decline in lead up to the film's release. We saw that, we talked about it, and this number, that 180 million, despite what everybody wanted to try to make it into the opening weekend, when people were putting out, oh, it's breaking records, oh, it's better than the first Black Panther, oh, this, oh, that. Now, it fell significantly short of the first Black Panther. That was a $202 million domestic opening. This one's down to 180. I have a hunch that it's going to be a significant drop-off. What are the drop-offs we saw for Doctor Strange? You guys remember this? Because I do. 67% drop week to week. Thor Love and Thunder was even worse than that. 68%. That's what most Marvel movies have been doing. If Black Panther Wakanda Forever has that type of drop-off, if it has a drop-off like the other ones, like 65, 67, 68, 69, 70%, that's not going to be good for this movie because, again, it's not going to do the international numbers that the other ones did. It simply is not going to work that way, especially when it doesn't have a China release. We still don't know whether this movie is going to make a ton of money or not. I feel very confident it's going to break that $625 million barrier. It's going to get over $700 million. I've been predicting $800 million for this movie. But the way people were talking about it, the projections we had for this movie, over $1 billion, this movie will not get anywhere close to that. Yet another Marvel movie that the industry thinks is going to be massive, just like Thor: Love and Thunder, that ends up being a disappointment.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.